turn comes up and your subscription's up to date and you attend all the meetings, of course, Madam Speaker, they're going to give you the chairmanship. And some countries, Madam Speaker, literally run from those chairmanships to avoid expenditure. Because, Madam Speaker, it's not only about airfare, sometimes you have to get technical staff, technical support, which is a burden on small island states. And that is why, generally speaking, countries within the OECS region do not rush for chairmanship of those organizations because of the cost involved, Madam Speaker. We just do not have the resources to maintain those type of positions. But yet still, they rush for them, then they come back here, satisfy their personal egos, and make it look as though they've done something good for the people of this country. When indeed, what they're doing, Madam Speaker, they're not prioritizing the expenses. In fact, they're wasting our money, our scarce resources, and soft expenses. Moving along, Madam Speaker, I would like now to turn to the issue of personal emoluments and pensions. Madam Speaker, in 2003, under the Labour Party, they argued that the public sector was overmanned. And I accept that, Madam Speaker. In fact, on a revenue basis, there's no doubt that we were overmanned, because at the end of the day, these expenses, personal emoluments and pensions, took up in the region of about 65% of all revenues. And it was definitely an unsustainable position. But let us look at what has happened, Madam Speaker, under the UPP. With all the talk, and as I said, especially for the benefit of the public, do not listen to their articulations. Don't worry about the fancy speeches. Look at the results, and the results are here. The figures can't lie. And by the way, you have your estimates. And if indeed any information, anything that I say here tonight is not correct, I would challenge any one of you to get up and say so. But, Madam Speaker, looking at the expenses for personal emoluments and pensions, we would have seen an increase of 254 million, a high. And remember, the Labour Party highs are the UPP lows. So a high of $254 million in 2003 on the Labour Party, up to $379 million, Madam Speaker, as at the end of this financial year. And you know what, Madam Speaker? They're projecting to increase it further in 2007 to $434 million. Now, Madam Speaker, the member for Rural East argued that he has $100 million in back payments that will have to be made in 2007. But let us look at what happened between 2003 and 2006. In reality, Madam Speaker, there would have been an increase of $125 million in personal emoluments. And when you look at the estimates, Madam Speaker, not only personal emoluments have increased, but the head count in the public sector has increased under the UPP. I challenge any one of them, Madam Speaker, to look at the head count at the back of the estimates, add them up, and I guarantee you that the head count would have increased under the UPP. And, Madam Speaker, you have to take into consideration that every single year we have at least 400 people leaving the service. So that, if anything, one would have expected a reduction of at least 1,000 individuals. But we have gotten the contrary, Madam Speaker. It would have increased by at least 1,000 individuals. And that is why the amounts being paid here, the amounts being expended as a percentage of total revenues would have increased, Madam Speaker. Or in actual terms, the amounts would have increased, Madam Speaker, from 254 to 379, and an increase of 125 million. Now, because, Madam Speaker, the present government has been successful in increasing revenues, then the percentage as a percent, well, let's say the amount as a percentage of total revenues would have been less than under the Labour Party. But notwithstanding that, it is certainly unsatisfactory that they would have increased the amounts from 254 to 379. And you see, you have to understand that you're dealing with a large denominator of 2.3 billion. But it is untenable for the present government to have increased the wage bill by $125 million in 2.5 years. That is just untenable. And if the Antigua Labour Party was collecting more taxes, certainly that 250